BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions. Yes, I know I'm late. Yes, I know this video is probably going to do terribly unless I promote the heck out of it. But I don't care. Code Lyoko is returning, and despite anything I say in this video that shows some concerns or doubts, I am very excited for this, and I'm not coming from this place of negativity when I have any sort of concerns or criticisms. So yeah, head writers Sophie DeCroce, Tanya Palombo, who I actually didn't know was the co-creator and creative director of Code Lyoko, who was the creative director of the first 4 seasons of Code Lyoko, including the original character and monster designs, including the one who inspired Yumi's creation. But let me know if you'd like me to make a video about that. And co-creator Thomas Romain are all coming back, as well as head director Jerome Muscadet. According to the transcript that we got, someone translated, Sophie and Jerome had said, yeah, for this potential sequel, there's not going to be any live action, no reboot. They desire to launch a true season 5 with our heroes in high school, which they were at a boarding school that was half middle school, half high school, so that adds up. Sophie confirms that she's writing a sequel to Lyoko. Jerome is also working with her, who is one of the original writers of the series, and they're bringing on Jean-Remy Franceau, one of the original writers. Thomas Romain is coming back to the project, and yeah, he left because he was working on Oban Star Racers, very underrated show by the way, and other projects in Japan, and I believe Jerome is working with him from Japan. Nothing is fully done yet, but they are working on it, and they are working on it becoming concrete, and they do have plans to make an announcement in the fall of 2026. To the point, Sophie even has a folder on her computer titled New Season of Code Lyoko. And Jerome has experience as a producer now, so he's actually able to hold the rights, which means everything should be interesting. Not to mention, they are going to keep exploring human and machine issues, especially since they're going to be questioning AI, as well as the relationship between humans and machines. So it's good that they're returning to their bread and butter while also making sure that they stay relevant, especially what's going on in the real world right now involving those topics. Now, I'm going to post the translations and the sources in the description, but because Code Lyoko's backstory as a brand up to this point is very complicated to explain, I'm going to break this video down into 4 sections. We're going to talk about Evolution and my takes on them not considering it the true Season 5, the behind-the-scenes issues involving Moonscoop and the other companies that got Code Lyoko into this position where it is now, some concerns that I and other Code Lyoko fans have regarding the Season 5, and for some people who are curious, exactly what could this Season 5 bring to the table. So, if you made it this far, type Code Revival, and let's get started. Okay, let's talk about Evolution. Now, according to the creators, they consider Evolution non-canon, which I don't partially blame them for, but Evolution is kind of harmless in the grand scheme of things. Like, all it really did was 100% confirm that Anita was still alive, Xana still could be revived, but also still be in prison and wasn't at 100%, and there was still another scientist who was after France, not to mention, it wasn't this disaster that people claim it out to be. Sure, I have some issues with the show, but the show did well in terms of viewership. It just wasn't enough to save Moonscoop from going under. The real concern for me was that according to Quentin, Ulrich's actor for the show, the actors didn't get paid, and I'll go into reason for that later. And it's a shame, because I thought for the most part the cast did a good job. Hell, Yumi and Ulrich's actors, including Quentin, had such good chemistry that they ended up getting together and they had 2 kids. I'm not joking, look that up. A world where Evolution exists is better than one without it. The real problems were, according to Sophie, the team that was also with her had changes that they wanted to make that she wasn't 100% approving of, and one of those were the human villain Tyron. Now, eventually, Professor Tyron was originally named Alan Mayer, but when a concept file of the series was leaked, they had to change his name to Ikonovo, or Ikovonov. I'm not Russian, but you know what I'm trying to say. Only for that name to be changed because there was another property that was using the name, and he was supposed to be the name of the scientist who caused Franz Hopper's downfall, but because the character changed during development, Sophie considers both of them to be separate. So it looks like if the original crew made Season 5 the way they want, they could reincorporate those concepts again, but they want to do it under their vision, where all of the creative staff from the original series is involved. And like I said, with the actors not getting paid, there was a lot of behind-the-scenes issues. From what I could find, it was a dispute amongst the company Moonscoop shareholders regarding how the studio was operated, so Moonscoop ended up falling behind on payments when they were working on Evolution and when they were paid to own Mike Young's Productions, which was Moonscoop USA at the time. They ended up leaving and becoming Splash Entertainment, which resulted in Moonscoop not being able to pay the actors. And because they were unable to secure ownership of the US branch, as well as the live action company responsible for the live action scenes, not only were the actors not paid, it also ended up resulting in lawsuits that drove the company into severe debt, which resulted in Moonscoop filing for France's equivalency of bankruptcy. all of their assets and employees ended up transferred to Mediatoon, and the actors still did not get paid for their performances besides the benefits that they got during production. So if all of the rights are going back to the writers, yeah, it's probably best that they try to find an animation studio that is willing to work with them, as well as making sure that Code Lyoko has a proper home in terms of being able to provide for their animators and their staff. Because the cast number of recurring characters is like below 25, and even the dub reused like 8 people for most of their actors, I doubt there's going to be any worries in that regard, although hopefully it just turns out for the best. Now, here's a few concerns that I'm a little bit worried about, but I'm not 100% certain is going to happen. Let's talk about William, because in an interview a while back, before the 2020s, Sophie was asked what the writers wanted to do with William's character if the series did not end with season 4. And she said that Jerome and herself always imagined that William's character would be too hot-headed to be a warrior, and they wanted to keep him as someone who caused trouble with the group and eventually become more of an agent of Xana because he's drawn to the dark side. And many others disagreed with this because from what was presented in season 2 and 3, especially, William has been willing and able to help out the heroes whenever possible, even if he doesn't know the truth of what's been going on. Keep in mind, he was trying to help out with the situation against the zombies, but the only problem was that he didn't know they had to go to the factory, which is why he was sort of antagonistic towards people trying to escape. But in his defense, from his perspective, he was only trying to keep everyone as safe as possible. Then you have episode 39, A Bad Turn, where everyone besides Yumi got to be cool and fight off the crabs that were invading all of the academy. And not only did he help Odd deal with the one in the factory, I can understand wanting to keep him around for conflict, but like or hate Evolution, the one thing you kind of have to acknowledge is the fact that not only did Evolution give William a better chance of joining the team, he kind of got screwed over in the original show. I mean, let's think back to season 3. They consider having him join the group, but Yumi rejects, and when they finally accept him, not only does everyone else end up preoccupied besides him and Aelita, Xana decides to pull the Schifozoa out to brainwash him instead of Aelita, something no one was prepared for at the time. Then when he gets back after they free him, no one trusts him for some reason. Xana's free to possess him on Earth, when had they brought him to Lyoko, they could have avoided that situation entirely. Man, it feels good to rant about that after all these years. The one saving grace about this is that this was said way back long ago, and Sophie was on the team for Evolution for at least the first 5 episodes, where William joined the team in Evolution, so it's possible she could have had a hand in William's redemption start. But if she's still not fond of the choices in Evolution, I can understand that, though there is a possibility that she would actually try to write William to be more redeemed. Plus, let's be honest, why would William want to willingly join the person who kidnapped him on the internet and basically mind-wiped him into becoming his loyal soldier? Like, it generally makes no sense. Not to mention, Sophie, Jerome, and Thomas have been working on several other stories since working on Code Lyoko. So they have a lot more experience and wisdom under their belt, and they do have ownership of the series Bible. So while I do have some sort of concern, I'll trust the crew with him at the end of the day, but I am going to be cautiously optimistic. So, here's the question on everyone's mind. What could a season 5 by the original writers bring to the table? There's actually quite a lot. One of the issues people have with the original 4 seasons was that the show would introduce one-shot characters who had potential only to be vanished or become background fodder, aka Theo, Talia, and even people who dislike William wouldn't have had a problem with Patrick joining the team as a Sixth Ranger, since his relationship with Jeremy was both interesting, one-sided in terms of negativity, and didn't really have that much baggage. Not to mention Jeremy didn't have a roommate, and them being cousins actually would have bounced off each other pretty well. I'm not saying that season 5 has to introduce these characters again, but if they had more recurring characters or use the ones that they have left over, I think they might try to avoid that problem and give them actual proper subplots. Speaking of which, France and Xana. With season 5, we don't know if either one is going to return. Evolution at least kept Hopper dead, but still talked about him for new viewers, while Xana was not at it 100%, and that was part of the ongoing plot with that show. But the big problem people have with Hopper was that he was barely showing up in the original 4 seasons, and even when he did, it was as a ball of light. He didn't even get a chance to interact with the cast, speaking-wise. At least future Sam and Power Rangers SPD got to do that, so they could try to flesh either him out, or Xana too. This would be a good opportunity for the writers to actually dive into Xana's motivation for turning evil in the first place. Because they didn't interact with the heroes, but then by season 4, he had William acting as his right-hand person, but we never hear Xana really try to converse with the Lyoko warriors and dive into their perspective on the situation. There's a lot of implications on Xana's actions in the fact that they want to keep Aelita around, has memories of France, really hates Jeremy and Yumi, and anyone and anything they possess on Lyoko would allow for an opportunity for him to speak to them, since the last time we ever technically heard Xana speak was in Ghost Channel. Damn, Ghost Channel was a good episode. Speaking of Xana, this would be the perfect opportunity to actually dive more into Project Carthage. For those of you who don't remember, the project was a military project that Franz Hopper was a part of, and he wanted to destroy it because of its ability to affect the worldwide communication networks. Which, if you think about it, it has a lot of dangerous power when put into the wrong hands, especially for war and profit. Yeah, despite being essentially the backbone of the story's plot, it kinda got little attention after season 2. Even Evolution didn't directly mention it at one point, and only the novels have dealt with the subject, and I haven't read the novels. But the reason why they did not explore that was because executives considered exploring the lore concerning the supercomputer to be too complicated, so the producers were not allowed to pursue that plotline for Project Carthage any further. And in an age where story-driven cartoons are now becoming more commonplace, it looks like the creators wouldn't have to worry about that issue anymore. And if they want to use the replica plotlines again, in Season 4, there were plans to use the mountain sector because people found an image of a hydroelectric dam marked Code 4. And in the Quest for Infinity game, I believe there was an image of a mountain sector that the group traveled to in the games. And according to Sophie, the location was envisioned in the initial script for Season 4, but they got rid of it for financial reasons. They could also try to use the characters' nationalities to flesh them out a bit more, because I don't know how much of this is confirmed, but like how Yumi is Japanese, Odd is Italian, and Ulrich's last name Stern is German. There's also the fact that in Season 4, Xana either took control of research centers and scientific locations, so if the Men in Black wanted to test and see if there were any ties to Lyoko left, they could always try to investigate. In the past, Sophie also said that Sissy was never meant to join the group of heroes for real, otherwise she would be a straight-on ally, and that her history with Odd was more of a running gag instead of shipping fuel. So if they want to have that she gets over her feelings for Ulrich, it is possible they could change their mind and explore something with Odd, but you never know. Or they could bring Sam back, keep her in Caddick, and explore her struggling nature with Odd trying to help her out without resorting to questionable means, while balancing his missions to Lyoko. And unlike Evolution, you don't have to worry about the racism involving France culture and hiring actors of color. If you like a more in-depth take on what I'm talking about, go watch my Sam and Odd video back in Black History Month for context. Speaking of which, Sophie has talked about the relationships between Jeremy and Aelita, and Yumi and Ulrich never being official, although I argue Jeremy and Aelita fit more since they actually do feel like a couple. But Sophie has said it's more interesting to tell of a developing love story than a concrete one, although you can still have people be in a relationship and the relationship is still growing and developing as they try to figure everything else out. They could also have the heroes at least address where they stand with each other. And like I mentioned before, if they want to do Season 5 better than how they think Evolution handled it, there are a lot of avenues they can explore. Anita is still out there, or Netta is still out there, and another weakness of Evolution is that there were these concepts that really would have benefited from either having a Season 2/6 or trying to do everything in Season 1, although I could see the argument that that could feel rushed. So the creators can explore either those concepts, as well as their take on a scientist that caused Hopper's downfall. Not to mention, Sophie did write a new series Bible to use so that they can either use that, or now that it's been a couple of years, expand upon it even more. And this one is just for me and a few others, because I know some people don't want this because they feel like it's going to devalue Jeremy's role as the guy in the chair. But can we please see him go to Lyoko? We know the form exists in the novels. At least give us a look at what it could be, because the show at least brought it up that he looked ridiculous. He doesn't even need to be that effective on Lyoko. Just let him go to a mission on Lyoko with his avatar. None of the limbo or simulation of the real world. Frontier and Ghost channels are already great enough episodes. We don't need to recycle that one again. Okay, he doesn't have to be perfect on Lyoko, but at least let him contribute on Lyoko once or twice. That is all I'm asking. Also, the original show did this a few times, and Evolution did give a few people some upgrades, but yeah, perfect opportunity for the heroes to get some sort of upgrade to their arsenal. Yumi got the bow staff in Evolution, which was better for fighting human opponents and monsters, but it was still helpful. Speaking of human opponents, now, I don't want to hear anyone saying that this is too fanficky when every single person has considered this, and the show was the first one to introduce this topic. We could potentially get more evil Lyoko warriors. Again, taking humans and making them antagonists on the virtual world is already compelling, because if it's someone like William, we know enough about them to care about them and want them to be free, while also having to deal with a massive threat with personal ties. Or if they're like the ninjas in Evolution, they are a scary threat because they are human and they have a more harder fight to deal with compared to Xana's monsters, who, while they're still a threat, they each have their own strengths and weaknesses, while humans are much more flexible. The only problem with the ninjas is that we didn't know any of them and they were practically the same. If we got more unique evil warriors, either with or actually having their own motivations, and were tied to either Xana or a human villain that ties into the lore of the show, I could see the writers using this to surpass even fan works and Evolution's attempt in that regard. I'm not going to lie, I was expecting this video to be a lot longer because of how much I love and care about Code Lyoko. And while I do hope that everything is able to be finalized by the end of the year and the series will be in a good position, I'm just happy that the series is coming back. The reason why it took me so long to talk about this is because I needed the time as well as being in the right mental space in order to finish this. And while I'm definitely still not in the right mental space, I am happy as a fan that the show is coming back in some way or form. Yeah, the video is probably not going to bang in the algorithm, but if there's one thing I will do for my content is that I will fight for it no matter how hard it flops. And considering that everyone is talking about the series on Twitter or in other places with their own hot takes, I feel as someone who's not into the knee-jerk reaction of it coming back, my perspective will be a lot different than others. But please, give me all your thoughts and opinions. Let me know if I got anything right or wrong in the comment section. Let me know if you guys would like me to talk about Code Lyoko more on the channel. Because either way, there is still a lot to talk about, and I know I'm going to bother you all via shorts and posts until the video gets up to 100 views. And even then, there's still a lot to talk about, especially given that everyone's been posting their hot takes on Code Lyoko for the past couple of weeks, and I want to add to the conversation as well. Plus, not that many diehard fans have been talking about it online, more so casual ones, because it takes a long while to just even produce these things and flesh out your points. So even if you are barely familiar with the series, do not be afraid to like, comment, and subscribe, or share the video around, because I also like to hear from more Code Lyoko fans, casual or diehard. And I do have a playlist with a few videos and shorts on the topic. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I will see you all next video, and BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, signing off.